Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is a brand new revamp to Aaron's collection, and what a way for us to start off with the new video series. We have today two champions from the Philippines going to talk to us about arguably the best deck in format. But before we jump into it, know that this is a complete revamp of the original channel. It's no longer Arcanix GG. It is Aaron's collection, as we mentioned in the original rebranding video that you have probably seen by now. The focus is still the same, right? We're still going to cover Pokemon TCG in Southeast Asia. We're still going to cover, our top players. We're going to cover events. We're going to cover as much as we can from Southeast Asia. But we're going to kick it off with arguably, what we probably think is the best deck in format right now. And what would better for us to know about the best deck in format than two respective champions from our region, from the Philippines. We have Rhian, Famaran, and Sky Mendoza. How's it going, guys? Welcome to the
Hello.
channel.
Uh, Hello.
All right, so we're gonna kick it off with a brief introduction, right, of the two guests that we have today. Rhian, why don't you go first? Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Rhian Famaran, and I've been playing Pokemon since the base set, and they call me one of the OGs here in the Philippines. I'm actually a two-time national champion and two-time regional champion, but I rarely compete outside of the Philippines. I only played a major. And for this season, I place on the second regional champion as the champion, and on the third regional championship for Manila or Philippines, I place as the finalist. So those are some of the accomplishments that I have.
Thank you, Rhian. That is some amazing accomplishments for someone to say that you're one of the OGs and you're still kicking it all these years on. So I don't feel so bad because I too have been playing since the base set. So I really appreciate someone in that same vein. So thank you, Rhian. Welcome to the show. Sky, what about you?
Hello everyone, I'm Sky Mendoza. I've been playing Pokemon for 7 years now. I started Sun and Moon base set, and then so far my best achievements are a top 32 at the World Championships 2019 as a senior, and then I was the 2022 national champion, and this season I was able to get a top 4 in the first regionals and now a regional championship.
Very nice, thanks, Sky. So there you have it. We have two regional league champions. Rhian taking down the second regional league in the Philippines, and then Sky taking on the third one. And guess what? Both these players here, for lack of a better way of saying it, have gone with the tried and tested deck, and that's Charizard. And here's a sneak peek. You'll probably be seeing right now the results from both the Volume 2 and Volume 3 events in the Philippines. And just look at the difference between these two events. You'd see, yes, the top deck being Charizard Pidgeot, both champions taking this particular deck all the way to the finals and winning with it. But look at the stark contrast one rotation did. We had Battle Styles to Paradox Rift in Volume 2, great variety of decks overall, and then when we swap over to Volume 3, and Charizard is just capturing, the complete metagame share, at least in the Philippines, and that is just an amazing performance for what is arguably one of the best decks in the new format, right? And what better way, again, for us to dive into this deck than to hear from two people who have been taking this deck all the way to top placings in Southeast Asia. And again, Southeast Asia being a very unique format, right? We have a best of one day one, and then we have a best of three knockout format on day two. So it's very different than what you would probably find, at the international championships or even in the regionals in North America or in Europe or even in Australia. So this is something that really would resonate to people who are playing within our region, and that's, I think, one of the best ways for us to really look into these results the way we're doing, right? So first step, let's really talk about deck choices. Rhian, why did you pick Charizard? Why was Charizard your go-to pick in Regional League Volume 2?
Charizard was my go-to deck in Volume 2 because I observed that on the first regional, I tend to have tie or double loss because of the time constraint, and that's the typical format for the regional or the major tournaments here in Asia. So I choose Charizard because it's able to attack fast and able to KO. And the best attributes of Charizards are high HP, energy efficient. There's also an energy acceleration, and as well as the damage output is will becomes higher and higher as there are many knockouts that are or prizes that are being taken by the opponent.
Right, and the unique situation here for you, Rhian, is not only did you win the Volume 2 Regional League, which was right before the rotation, but post rotation, you still stuck with the same deck, right? You still went with
Yes.
Charizard post rotation. Is that so? Was that a similar reasoning when you moved into the new format? Did you think that, well, if it worked once, it can work again? What was your thinking behind that choice?
Yeah, because there are some tweaks that I made with Charizard in the regional league, regional tournament three, like the A specs. So I think that it still will be doing okay because of those fast attacks, and also because of Pidgeot that is able to search for AD card. There's a great support for Charizard during that time as well, when the format was rotated to the new format.
Awesome stuff. Very nice overall, description of the deck choice. And I think it's interesting that, we went from one format to the next in the space of, less than I think it was like a month and a half. And then
Yeah.
immediately we see the full flip, right? So essentially, the Philippines was the first tournament, I would say, worldwide because, due to time zones, it was on the same day as EUIC, technically speaking. Well, same weekend, but then UIC will always play one day prior on Friday. So I guess that's a trade off, right? But at the same time, we were essentially, treated to a new format, a new event on an event on the new format in our region in Southeast Asia, alongside folks who are paying attention to EOIC, right? So a big shame we couldn't get streams going. Otherwise, we would have two streams side by side. One looking at EOIC and one on the Philippines Regional League, which would have been awesome. Speaking of the Regional League Volume 3, Sky, you took Charizard into first place, right? And Rhian, we'll come back to your second placement as well because you're a powerhouse with Charizard as well. But we got Sky who took it all the way, denying you, unfortunately, the back-to-back Regional League, which would have been a story of itself, you know. But Sky, talk to me about your deck choice. Why was Charizard your pick, and save the special text for last? Like, we go to text on the later side, but why was Charizard as a main archetype your choice for the third Regional League?
Okay, so the first half of the season, I was actually playing Lost Box, but like I did bad during Regional 2,
Mm-hmm.
so I needed a deck that was consistent because that was my problem with Lost Box. So I then tested Charizard. Charizard did well, it was consistent. And then next I was like, okay, what can beat Charizard? Because like I usually like playing anti-meta. And then I couldn't find a deck that was consistent enough to beat Charizard, so I was just like, okay, I'll stick with Charizard. I did it with Regional 1, so might as well go with Charizard again.
Very nice. So, interesting you mentioned Lost Box. Was that something that you were comfortable with in the previous format, but you felt didn't really click in the new format, or what was the your reasoning between moving from Lost Zone to a tried and trusted sort of deck like Charizard?
Okay, so for this decision, um, the format of Best of One actually played a major role into the deck
Mm.
decision because Lost Box usually has this tendency of breaking
Yeah.
within, like, it breaks more often than Charizard, which is why I would usually take it into a best of three probably because you can afford that one loss because it can theoretically beat anything. It's just that it has that issue with consistency. So I took Charizard because it breaks less and it's also consistent. So I need that for the best of one format so that I can play more games.
And Rhian, I see you nodding there. Do you agree with that sentiment? Is the best of one versus best of three situation that we have one of the main
Yeah.
factors? Yeah.
And because for the Charizard, you're able to come back from behind because of
Mm.
the uh, attack increase in Charizard and disruption. Those it's much better. And as Kai mentioned, I also played Lost Box in casuals and I lost a game because my only starter was Stable Eye and I believe Cramorant and there's no lost
Where's the
lost card.
Comphase? Where the flowers?
Yeah, those I don't like to go back on that.
Awesome stuff. No, that's a very good point. I think we're seeing that across all Southeast Asia. But interestingly, there is a lost zone deck that is doing pretty well. Outside the Philippines, I might have to say, over in Singapore and Malaysia, that is a spoiler for the next episode, so I will not go through that any further. But great stuff overall. I think both of you really talk about your deck choices. With good background, and I think that could help out other players looking into the deck as well. Like, why do I pick this deck versus the next? I might love to play Lost Zone, but I also play Charizard pretty well. What do I do when I go to my national championships, which are around the corner for both Singapore and Philippines, as well as Malaysia, which is a month later for some reason. But it's one of those things, right? We have a best of one day one Swiss, and that alone could derail your tournament. One bad start and there you go. You have to win out if you want to have any chance of making top 16 cut. For day two. Let's dive into your deck list, right? And I want to start with Rhian because we while we want to talk about both your win as well as a new format. I think your second placement deck at the Visual Volume 3 looks to me, honestly speaking, like a very optimal list as it is, right? I see the
Mhm.
typical Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard setup, right? Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. I see your PG Pidgeot. No Bibarel, so you are running the straightforward Charizard list with Pidgeot. Rotom V, Lumineon V, interestingly, still making a view in your deck list, which I know a lot of people have cut, you know. But tell us about your deck list. What do you find to be, your thoughts about your list now looking back at it?
Uh, so this deck list is I thought to be the most optimal because I needed Rotom for the draw, especially at the start if you're the first player.
Hmm.
Though 3 is an advantage already, as well as when Rotom B is priced, so Luminion B you'll be your alternate for the Forest Stone because it adds consistency. You're able to select whatever card. It's like the old computer search without the discard of two cards.
I like
So
that throwback. I like how you threw back right to the base set. It makes me feel not so old anymore. Like someone else could think the way I think. So that's great. Awesome.
that's the advantage of the Forest Stone.
Mm,
And I added Airy because for the disruption, especially against
mm,
Chien-Pao, because they tend to have to use also rare candies, and at the same time it could be also utilized against Charizard if they are stacking or holding the rare candies. The Professor Taurus was added because of the experience against the Snorlax stall, so that you will be able to at least get out of that situation. And also, it acts like a heal for a Charizard because if they are unable to damage your Charizard, then you're able to pick it up and have another Charizard as an attacker. So I think that's the choice. And maximum belt, um, because of the additional damage also that you're able to dish out, especially against the Chien-Pao because on the regional 2, Chien-Pao was the highest placer
mhm.
during the elimination. It was the top deck. Those I need
Right.
to take that into consideration. And also against mirror deck, it adds an additional damage when you are the opponent has taken at least 4 prizes. Those are some of the reasons why I did choose those cards. And Miss Energy, especially against Rorimon. because on the second regionals, I was able to have two opponents that are Roaring Moon,
Oh
and
my.
the Gouge, the EX. Those I have to add the Mist Energy.
That's a good throwback. So for any viewer who would have been paying attention, they would have known that in Regional League Volume 2, Roaring Moon was your, opponent in the finals,
Yeah,
and that Miss Energy immediately, stood out to me as like, hey, I think Rhian played that because there's a bit of trauma there from the first event. But a very nice addition, it's a fairly new card. It was only released in Temporal Forces, and I saw that as a very interesting, tag. Did it come in handy throughout the event? Like, how was your day one? Did you face any Roaring Moons or even day two?
fortunately during that time I did not met any Roaring Moons, but many mirrors of Charizard.
Oh man, if you came to Malaysia with that deck, you would have probably used that card, Miss Energy, almost every round. We have a lot of Roaring Moons in
Uh,
Malaysia. So I should have talked to you about your list before, going to any event here. But yeah, anyway. What am I saying? Even Malaysia, Roaring Moon was in the previous format, so we haven't had an event in the current format yet anyway. All right, good, great stuff by the way, Rian. That's a very good, overall run through. And I think now we're gonna shift gears to Sky, because Sky has some fancy stuff in his list, and I'm also seeing a miss energy here, Sky. So talk me through your list, and where possible. Oh, sorry, yeah. I think for us, um, leave the one Pokemon tag for last, if you don't mind. Go through everything else if you can, Sky,
Okay,
and
okay,
then leave the best thing for last.
okay. So first thing that I took note of is the four Charmanders had to be all from Obsidian Flames, which is the 60
Mm.
HP, because I was thinking, we don't need the 70 HP that removes the stadium because there's no more path to the peak, so we don't need that. And then we don't need the Ember because the 40 damage so far in my testing was irrelevant. So I thought, okay, Charmander, Heat Tackle is the best one, so I'll just play four of that.
Okay.
And then Charmeleon standard there, the three Charizards is standard. The Pidgeot is also standard there. No Bibarel because I did not think of that. Radiant Charizard standard, and then the Rotom and the Minion V. I didn't go for the two Rotom V because the option of
Mm.
the Minion is super crucial in the best of one because it lets you out in more scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And then I cut out the Jirachi because I was thinking that not much will play Lost Zone.
That's a good call because we
Okay.
didn't see
And
any lost
then
zone even in your top 16. That was a good meta call from both of you, not having
yeah.
Jirachi. I, I, I don't know whether that would have been even possible in Malaysia or Singapore because of how high density we have, lost zone decks here. But both of you made a very good call. We're not having a Jirachi. That's one valuable space saved. You know.
it's probably because also I thought that escape rope was removed. Those
Mm.
the way that the Lawson will be able to get into the 7 or the 10 cards for the especially for the Sable Eye would be much lower as compared to the previous format.
Good
Those
call.
are some things that I also put into consideration.
Very good point there. Very good point. Escape were one of my favorite, trainer cards. Walk Point in the old days, right? And Walk Point was the old card, right? That was how we used to know it. But yeah, very good call out there. Sky, one very important question to ask you, right? For folks who are playing two bosses orders and two counter catchers versus Rhian's 3 and 1, what are your thoughts there? What is the decision point for you and why you went with a 2-2 split?
I have the 2-2 split because I was expecting the mirror match.
Mm.
Wherein in the mirror match, most players right now would go for the instant knockout, which I like playing from behind as a Charizard. I mean, for Charizard in general, you like playing from behind. So
Mhm.
I thought having the two counter catcher would be much better than the two boss because at least you have more options playing supporters like Iono and Arven. it gives you more flexibility since anyway in general you're playing from behind, so counter catcher is good. And then the two boss there, I tested the lit out for us, which it turned to be pretty fine having only two boss since the counter catcher made up for it.
Okay, interesting stuff there. So now I think we can finally introduce your spicy tech card. So what is the one card here, Sky, which you brought in, which I don't think anyone else would have thought about. I mean, I didn't think about it, but I haven't played Charizard in a while. Maybe some folks have. So introduce to everyone the card that is standing out right now in your Pokemon list.
We have a gouging fire in there.
Okay.
Um,
That's the podcast. We can close it right now because I think we just ended with Gouging Fire EX. No, I'm kidding, Sky. Please let me know. Let us know what went behind the thought about including Gouging Fire.
okay. Gouging fire right now is very good going into an unknown meta because it helps you solve the Lugia matchup, the Arceus matchup. Because like gouging fire, that 260 damage for 3 energies, it's effectively like your Radiant Charizard, but it lets you hit those numbers earlier, which is the struggle of Charizard. You lack early game pressure with Charizard, which I guess goes against my playing from behind strategy for the counter catcher. But at the same time, that's what Arceus players expect you to do, and what Lugia players expect you to do. They expect that you play from behind, so they might have that single Lugia or a single Arceus in the active, since they know that you can't knock it out, right? And then and all of a sudden you can bring out gouging fire for that 260 or maybe 290 with a choice, but Arceus or Lone Lugia, placing you ahead.
Very nicely said. Very nice said, Sky. And I think as an Arceus player, I'm taking it very personal right now because I usually also like playing a hit against Charizard, and I would never expect a gouging fire. So I feel really scared to take Arceus to an event in the Philippines if I ever go over. Because who knows, someone might be playing gouging fire and I'll be completely caught off guard. But this is an interesting tech. Did it ever come in handy in your matches in day one as well as day two?
Okay. So for day one, it helped me win against my first three matches were a Miraidon, an Arceus V-Star with Regidrago, and then a Future Box. And
Wow.
all of those, I was able to use Gouging Fire to take my first few prizes. And then later on the day, it was pretty useless.
I mean, it set you up for a good run. I mean that it did its job in that sense, you know. But it's a very interesting tech and one that I really admire because I find that's something about Southeast Asia. I think also about each of our our countries, right? There is always something spicy, you know, coming out of our region that we probably want to highlight. You know, we had last year in Malaysia Region League a Lozon Giratina with a Roy Moon EX. So what's better than saying Lost Requiem once? You say Lost Requiem twice, but you just use a different Pokemon for it. And in your case now, you're running a tempo setting Gouging Fire EX in a Charizard deck that usually plays from behind, but you could catch people off guard with this, right? Like you said, Arceus wouldn't expect you to hit 290 or 280 at all in the opening couple of turns. They would hope you hit 270 and then they would probably Cheren Scare or they would Turo as well. But you're saying, nope, I'm going to come in Flare Blitz with a Choice Belt. I'm going to take that Arceus away right off the bat. So this is an interesting thing about our region, I feel. A lot of ingenuity going on, right? So I think we went through quite a bit. We went through your experiences at the events. We went through your current deck list. And I think it's very important to talk about now the outlook for the next couple of weeks and knowing that the Philippines will be having their championships. Singapore is having theirs as well in the coming weeks. It's within a month and a half or so. So it will be in that same format before the new set drops at NEIC. So Rhian, what are your thoughts about Charizard moving forward? What do you think about the deck? And if anything, would you make any changes to how the deck is being built right now?
Yeah, there would be a couple of changes.
Mm.
Because on the third regional, it was my first time actually to battle Mirror Charizard because on our play group, I was the only one playing Charizard. But because of what happened on the third regional, that it's mostly Charizard, I think there are four of my play groups who are playing Charizard right now. And as you notice, we only have the PG and Pidgeot, and I think like the list of third, so Bibarel will be able to add consistency and they will be able to go like on a one pricer route without the need of Pidgeot if ever you're going to encounter a one pricer, especially right now. I think the hype is on the rise is on the Roaring Moon.
Mm.
Um, the ancient box. At the same time, I believe there would be more people also playing what they call this Gardevoir. It was a difficult matchup as well for me during the last regionals. Actually, I lost to that during the elimination, but I won over it during the top four. So I was fortunate enough.
Very well said. Sky, what about you? Changes to Charizard? Any new thoughts about it before the next round of events?
I would definitely change the list to Tord's engine, since we all know that Tord is a very skilled deck builder,
Thought is Thor.
and
Yeah.
I should just probably copy from him. Just Tord, yeah.
No, it's a good point. I want to make one point very clear. It is never wrong to net deck. Personally, I've always said this, right? If you're unsure, it's completely okay to net deck, right? And I think with so many new players coming into the format right now, who are able to use sites like Limitless or PTCG Legends, and they're looking at not just Tor's deck list, but they look at yours as well, right? Sky, Rhian, they look at your deck list for inspiration. And I'll be the first to
Mhm.
say, when I was much younger playing competitive, I would say, why do I want to net deck? Why do I want to copy exactly? I should add my own style to it? That's great. But there is a reason why some of these top players, and yourself included, use the cards that you use. And for anyone starting out, it's completely okay to net deck, you know. And that's where you can learn intricacies, and perhaps have a different viewpoint than what you did have. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sky, but I just want to make that point really important because, a lot of people, you get teased like, oh, why are you copying Tort's list? Why are you copying Rhian's or Sky's list? And I personally always say, for anyone watching our videos, copy the list of the people that we're talking to right now because it took them far. It might take other people far as well. There's no harm in it, you know. Yeah, Sky. Anything else beyond that? Any further changes? Do you still want to keep gouging fire by any chance?
I think I'll remove the Archer Fire already, because
No.
there's no more RSTs, since like everyone's playing Charizard now, so
Yeah, that's
there's no
true.
use of keeping the Gouging Fire.
That is true. As much as I hate to
And
admit it, no
then
one's
yeah,
playing
everything
Arceus.
else will probably, I mean,
Okay, no, it's very interesting, and I do see a lot of value in how both of you built your list because I think there are a lot of similarities and also a lot of nuances that make it slightly different. But the core of the deck is still the same, right? It's still Charizard Pidgeot. It's
Yes.
still a super consistent deck once it gets rolling. Like yes, it can break, but that's every deck in the format, right now. Especially if you start off with a bunch of energy in hand or something like that. So overall, I do admire how interesting the meta game in the Philippines is with a lot of Charizard and both of you taking your own styles to it, making these little changes which really bring the deck to the next level. So if I have to ask you a prediction for your national championships, the Philippine national championships, right? What would you think would be the two decks that are not Charizard? If I have to put you in a corner and say you have to play, if you're not going to play Charizard, what are the two decks that you'd play? Rhian, putting you on the spot first. And Sky will have some time to think first.
For me, I believe it would be Gardevoir at the same time.
Mm,
The one I mentioned, the Roaring Moon. Because
okay.
during my practice, I think I was able to encounter at least five Roaring Moon. And because of that, I'm contemplating actually on putting Lost, what they call that, the stadium,
Lost
the
City.
Lost where,
Yeah.
Lost City, in order to remove those Roaring Moons at the same time. For the Guardy player, their Screamtail and Driflim. Because usually
Mm,
they would be using at least one or two. Those when you are able to put that particular stadium, it would be more or less resolve some of your issue or trouble for them to recycle that using the rod.
mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I believe it's a must to still have the loss vacuum. Because of those two, you're able to remove the tool for both of them for those two decks that I could see and I do observe. Those are the ones that I see as rising threat, and the third one possibly would be the kill the Lost Tina.
Very well said. Very well said. Sky, what about you?
My first deck choice, if it's not Charizard, it's already
Mm-hmm.
sleeved up. I have here Lost Box
Oh,
with Iron
Yeah,
Hands
Lost
and Roaring Moon.
okay.
Roaring
It's
Moon.
overall it can beat anything. It just needs to draw properly. Just select the flowers right.
Fair
Have a good day.
enough. Fair enough.
And then I guess the second option is the one I've been testing online. It's Chien-Pao. Because
Mm.
again, it's another deck that can have a positive matchup against Charizard. It's just a matter of just hitting the Pokestops. Just don't discard your
Yeah.
Irida.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Chien-Pao, as well as Lost Box, Roaring Moon with Iron Hands. And then on Rhian's side, we had Gardevoir and Roaring Moon. Very interesting picks. I probably would agree with all your assessments. Those are very interesting picks overall. But it remains to be seen. Will the meta game shift between now and then? We still have quite a few events to go to, and I believe the Singapore National Championships is before the Philippines
Right.
one. So a bit of a insight to what's doing well, basically, right? So that brings
Yeah.
us to the end of our video. I know we've been talking for quite a bit, and I hope this has been a good experience for both of you as well as for those watching at home or wherever you are. Uh, Closing thoughts, right? Rhian, Sky, each of you one final things to say. What do you want to bring forward to? What would you like to let people at home know? Rhian, you can go first.
For me, actually, I just enjoy the game, and
Mm.
it's not really much on the winning. It's more on the experience. Since I'm playing already since the base set. And for me, I've been playing actually the deck that I like. That is
Mm.
why my username is Darkrai because I like or I tend to like dark Pokemon, and Charizard is a pseudo dark. At the
Perfect.
same time, fire is my element of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because during the first championship that I did have, the fire starter Blaziken was my deck that made me won the first championship. That is why the deck choice that I had is Charizard because it is a combination of dark and fire. But
Wow.
as they say, enjoy the game and practice.
Mm.
But I tend to like to practice more on the actual, not on the online game. Because for me, I believe that there are some intricacies on the decision making, especially when there's the actual
Mm.
card playing. Unlike on the what do you call this? On the online game, it's automatic that sometimes when you played like the trainer, it would shuffle on the bottom. But when you're actually playing, then sometimes you tend to forget those things, like what happened to my colleague. Those I still encourage everyone to play the actual game and attend local tournaments.
Awesome stuff. Sky, what about you? Any final words?
Um, just enjoy the game. Like, play decks that you want to play or what you think will help you win if that helps you enjoy the game more. Because at the end of the day, all decks will brick. So all decks will win or lose. And it's just that you just need to enjoy the game so that you can take your mind out of bricking and just enjoy the rest of the game.
Very well said. Thank you both so much. I will play Arceus next event thanks to both of you. I'm convinced now that I will go back to the deck that has not been treating me well, but I enjoy playing it. So, in any case, thank you all so much for tuning in. I know this has been a longer than usual episode, but I do hope it has brought some insights to you about not just the Pokemon TCG's deck of the hour right now, which is Charizard, but also about these two brilliant individuals from the Philippines, from our region. Rhian, Sky, thank you so much for your time today. And for those of you at home, do hit subscribe, do leave a comment. This is a very young channel. It's all about having fun on this channel anyway. Who knows, you might be one of the few people that we would eventually talk to as well on your journey in the Pokemon TCG. This is Aaron from Aaron's Collection, and we'll catch you in the next video. See ya!